What's up, guys? Today we're talking about pre-fight warm-up. How long should it be? How early before your fight should you start? What intensity should the pre-fight warm-up be? All these questions to make sure that when you go out to fight, you are performing at a peak level. That's what we're talking about today. Okay guys, we are covering this topic today because Jose Gonzalez put a lovely comment up asking about this topic. He said, "Gabriel, I always wonder how is the backstage experience of warming up for a pro fighter when you don't know exactly when your fight will start? I mean, can it be 30 or 60-minute warm-up or longer? And how to prepare to reach your peak performance without wasting energy? Can you tell us?" Well, this is one of those topics that I have wanted to cover for so long, but I just figured, nobody's that interested in it. I don't have any footage of me doing my pre-fight warm-up because everybody who's there is working with me on getting me ready. The least of my concerns in that moment is making sure I have fight footage, but we're going to do this today without my fight footage. I'm going to walk you through everything because this is a topic that is so important, and I've seen so many people do this warm-up in so many different ways. Some people will do no warm-up, like almost nothing. That's like the guys in Thailand. It's so warm there, you see them throw a couple shadow box punches and they're ready. Other people will do these elaborate hour-and-a-half long warm-ups. And I never knew when I was coming through the ranks early on which one was right. So it was through trial and error that I figured out what was best for me and what I think would work best for you guys. So before we get into all the details of the pre-fight warm-up, if you guys have not already, please make sure you get subscribed, give the video a like, and let's continue this. Let's roll along without stopping. What I want to start with here is talking about when you should start your pre-fight warm-up. And that sometimes can be ultra tricky if you're not the first fight on the card. If you're the first fight, you go, okay, fight card starts at 7. I want, 45 minutes of warm-up time. I'm going to start at 6:15. Boom, you're done. You nail it. No questions. Easy, easy. But what happens if you're fight number 7 out of, let's say, 10, and you get warmed up, and then all of a sudden you're sitting waiting around because you warmed up too early, or you're like, oh, you know what, I'm going to start and warm up on fight number 5. That'll give me 2 fights to warm up, and then all of a sudden they're bang bang knockouts, and they're like, oh, you got to go out, and you're going, no, I'm not warmed up, I'm not ready. So I have dialed in an approach that seems to be spot on. I never rush to the ring. I'm never rushed out, but I also never go out feeling like, oh my gosh, I got warmed up and now I'm so cold because I cooled down and there was such a long break in between my warm-up and the fight time. So what I do personally is when I get to the locker room, there's usually a list of the fights, and I right away go, okay, I'm fight number 8, let's say. And I always go 5 fights before. For me, that's my magic number. I go down, okay, when fight number 3 starts, that is when I'm going to get ready or start getting ready. And for me, that 5 has been really, really ideal. Now, let me explain this 5-fight buffer to you. The fight right before mine, let's call that fight number 5. That fight right there is 100% buffer. By the time that fight starts, I want to be completely done. I want to be done my warm-up because on that point, I know that if the fight ends quickly, I'm ready to go. But at the same time, if the fight goes the whole distance, I'll just keep warm. And we'll talk more about that after. So now that leaves me with 4 fights to complete my warm-up. Now you have to keep in mind this 4-fight situation. It could be something like half an hour, 40 minutes, but if it's full fights, it could also be more like an hour and a half. So I constantly have people running out and running back in. I usually have multiple cornermen, so they run out, they check, oh, okay, fight number 1, that one's still going. It went the distance. So I go, okay, you know what? We'll just keep the pace relatively chill. We're not rushing. But if they come back and they go, oh, okay, fight number 2 just finished in a KO, then I go, okay, let's pick the pace up a little bit. So I'm constantly adjusting, constantly evolving my warm-up to make sure that when I finish, and I know the whole routine, we'll go through the whole routine in a moment, but when we finish, we're right at the point where fight number 5 is starting. So we have the 5 fights. Let's call it the 5-fight buffer. When we get to fight number 1, like we already talked about, that for me is a stretch. It's just a stretch and a warm-up. I take probably 5 or 10 minutes because I've probably been sitting around for a while. I just, start swinging the arms, start warming up the neck, go through my whole routine. I have a whole stretching routine that's up as well. You guys can check that out. It's fairly similar to what I do for my pre-fight warm-up. I'll go through that whole thing. We're talking about 7 to 8 minutes. And then maybe in the last couple minutes of that first fight, I'll just start bouncing. I'll just start moving around a little bit, just getting the blood flowing, few little punches, nice and loose. When fight number 2 starts, that's when we start cracking into the pad work. My personal routine, and this is just one that I've developed over the years, but what I like to start with is I like to just set myself off, my pad holder's in front, he lifts up the hand, and I throw 10 jabs. Not in a row, bang, 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 just moving around, jab. Jab. We do 10 of them. I take a little shakeout. I get a sip of water. We do the same thing with the cross. Little shakeout. And then hooks, 10 each. Little break between each one. And then into uppercuts, 10 each. Cracking fairly hard, but I'm taking nice long breaks between each punch. So I'm not getting exhausted. It's just a little bit of a warm up. Once I've completed that, and we're still in fight number 2 at this point, I'm just gonna start stringing a couple small combos together. Just sort of 1, 2, 1, 2, maybe 1, 2, 3, and we're just moving around. That's all. It's still just strictly offense. I'm just getting everything warmed up, getting my heart rate to rise a little bit, getting the body ready for some explosive motions. And I usually find by the time I finish that sort of pre-offense warm-up, we're entering into fight number 3. When fight number 3 comes, I'm starting to pick the pace up. So I start at this point doing a little bit of open pad work. And what we like to do for our open pad work is we go 1 minute on, 1 minute off. And I do that 3 times, fairly hard now. And I start getting the legs involved as well, getting the legs snapping out, putting combos together. My pad holder's ready and I'm banging off nice combos, just getting the body flowing a little bit more. That 1 minute on and then 1 minute off will definitely fatigue me. I've talked about the fatigue I feel in my pre-fight warm-ups, how it's a surprise and a shock if you've never felt it before. Again, I'll link up here. So that 1 minute on, 1 minute off is a lovely way to just get the heart rate up, but then right away you have a whole minute off, and then another minute on, another minute off, and then one final time, 1 minute on, 1 minute off. And I'm still in fight number 3 at this point. Usually by the time I get to the end of fight number 3, assuming it goes the whole distance, we're just gonna add in a 1 3-minute round. One hard 3-minute round. That's all I do. I never do more than 1 because I've already done the hard 1 minute on, 1 minute off. My heart rate's elevated. I did my nice warm up, banging with single shots, throwing a few combos together. Before that, I did my stretch. So when I finish my 3-minute round, usually fight number 3 is done. And we're generally moving into fight number 4. And like I said before, sometimes I have to speed things up or slow things down, take longer breaks in between, but I'm constantly adjusting so that when we get to fight number 4, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start drilling defense. My brother puts his gloves on. I put my gloves on, or mine are usually already on and taped at this point. I put my mouth guard in and I start getting a little bit of light sparring in. We're not banging hard, but we're just drilling everything that we've done in fight camp, all the little details, all the breakdowns that I've done where I've shown you what I prepare for in the fight. We run through these again here. I practice everything the way I want to execute in the fight, and then what I do in the last little bit of fight number 4 is I get a little bit of a body beat down. I get them to, touch me in the cheeks, just bang me up a little bit, sort of push my nose in, touch the forehead, some body shots, get them to bang up my legs. So when we first take impact in the fight, we're not going, oh, ow, what the heck? We're all warmed up, our body's ready for impact. And then next up is fight number 5. And this is the point where we get to the promotion sometimes making you leave the locker room, the warm-up room, and going out somewhere else because you're on deck. You're next up. They want you ready to go. So I like to be completely warmed up by this point. If the other fights ended a little early, I rush my warm-up just a tad and make a few little tweaks. If it ran slow, when we get to this point, I'm fine. I'm warmed up. I'm still ready to go. But what you don't want to do during this fifth fight, this last fight here, is cool down. You don't want to just wait because it could potentially go for 20 minutes or something like that, maybe even longer by the time they do the walkouts if it's a full fight. So I usually grab this here, I usually take a towel. Always have a towel with you. I wrap the towel over one shoulder, over the other, and I keep it on me like this. Whenever I'm not doing something, I have this towel wrapped around me. It doesn't matter if it's hot or not. This is not a very good example here, but you can hook this in if you have somebody else. You just take the edge of it, you hook it behind, and then from there you have your own little sort of cape. It keeps you warm. All the temperature is just coming up to your shoulders, nice and warm, still sweating. And then whenever I want to do another little run at the pads, let's say the fight that is number 5. Fight number 5 is running long. It's a full fight. You're going, okay, I'm feeling relaxed, I'm feeling loose, but I want to move again. Nerves pick up. So I rip off the towel, and then my brother will just go punches off the palms or something. I'll just bang away some straight punches, or we'll do a little in and out drilling, or just a little bit more sparring, but just open hand for him. And basically during that final fight, fight number 5, all I'm doing is I am completely warmed up. I'm just staying warm. I'm making sure I don't walk out with my shirt off and no clothes on and just in my shorts. And then by the time I get in the ring, I'm all dry again. The sweat's gone, feeling a little stiff and a little achy, because sitting around just on a chair when you're cold and you have no clothes on for 20 minutes, that's no good. So it's about staying warm in that 5th and final fight. Aside from that, guys, aside from the timing of everything, there's also all the pre-fight focus and meditation. So before we get to the first fight of that 5-fight buffer, I'm doing my pre-fight meditation, my pre-fight visualization. Every time I take a break through this 5-fight buffer, every time I get a little bit of a rest, I'm not just like, oh yeah, what am I going to get for food after? Or, oh, what am I going to do when I get home after? I'm thinking always about the fight. I'm visually and mentally focused on what I'm going to do, how I'm going to perform tonight. And I'm doing that same thing in that 5th fight of the buffer there. I'm getting myself in that zone one final time to make the walkout. Because the walkout, if you're not mentally focused and you're feeling like, man, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna win, I'm feeling it tonight. If you're not in that zone, that walk out to the ring is scary. But usually for me, I feel really confident and really excited and a little nervous, of course, but that walkout is much better than me walking out cold and nervous and feeling like, oh, I just don't want to be here and I don't want to be doing this and I'm scared and whatever other emotions are happening. You want to be walking out there feeling like a king. Now, guys, like I said, this is just my personal preference to warm up. You're going to find everybody who does things different, because that 5-fight buffer is probably somewhere between 50 minutes to an hour and a half. If I was going to judge. But like I said, an hour and a half is a very long time. We're not banging off explosive, hard 3-minute rounds, taking a minute break, doing it again. It's a lot of minute on, minute off. Throw 10 punches, take 30 seconds off. Throw another 10 punches, take 30 seconds off. Whenever I want a break, I take it. I never push myself to the point where I'm feeling exhausted. The only time in the whole fight warm-up where I ever go, whew, this is hard, is the 1 3-minute round we do. I'm only doing one of them, and that's at the very end of everything else. And because the nerves are flooding the body and you're just, getting over a weight cut and all of that, that 1 3-minute round I find usually in the halfway point onwards, it can be pretty exhausting. But then you get in the fight, and if you do your warm-up correctly, the 3-minute rounds don't feel hard whatsoever. Well, that's a lie. They do feel hard, but not as hard as that 1 3-minute round of pad work that you did. So guys, there's lots of information for you there, lots of things that you can take and try and implement into your next pre-fight warm-up. But remember, my body is my body. I know exactly now, after 40 plus fights, what it likes, when I feel best. There is no perfect fight warm-up. Sometimes when I do that exact routine, I feel great. Next time, I feel a little bit off. It's not so much the routine, I think it's just more how your body's feeling. But if you do the same pre-fight warm-up time and time and time again, and you're never feeling great, then you need to make adjustments. And that's what I've done throughout my career, to the point where I think I've dialed that pre-fight warm-up down to exactly what I want and I need. Woo! Okay guys, we got through it. Now this topic for me is very exciting, because I always, like I said before, I always want to cover the topics that the other YouTube channels are not covering. And I have not seen this anywhere before. I didn't even know that anybody would really be interested in it until Jose mentioned it. And thank you for doing that, Jose. It's fantastic, because I think a lot of people need to hear that, and if you want to hear it, I know other people do as well. Guys, if you're enjoying the unique content on the channel, everything's a little different here, but I'm trying to make it exciting and unique and lots of learning for you. Make sure you give the video a like, get subscribed, train hard guys, and I'll see you back here soon for another video.